What up, Forward family? It's Big Boss Fabo back with a video for the channel, man. I'm actually doing a reaction to wral. I don't even know what that stands for, but we got 6-year-old shoots teacher in Virginia. Women help save teacher. Father of child speaks. A 6-year-old student shot and wounded a teacher at a school in Virginia during an altercation inside a first grade classroom Friday. Police and school officials in the city of Newport News said. So this 6-year-old involved in this shooting is extremely rare, although not unheard of. While Virginia law limits the ways in which a child that age can be punished for such a crime, no students were injured in the shooting at Rich Neck Elementary School, police say. So the teacher was a woman in her 30s, suffered life-threatening injuries. Her condition has improved and somewhat by late afternoon. All right, let's just go ahead and hop right into it. I'm sure the video will detail a lot of the information I'm reading off in the description. Crazy 6-year-old came to the school scrapped. That's wild. Probably had it in his book bag. You know what I'm saying? So that's crazy. That's a crazy headline. That's a crazy title just to see the details of what this could be. Let's go ahead and hop right in, man. Let's go ahead and hop right in.
She said, I'm shot, call 911. We only thought it was somewhere on her hand, maybe. But after looking further, she passed out on the floor. And then after looking further, we noticed that there was another gunshot wound.
LaWanda Rusk, a grandparent of 2 boys who attends Rich Neck, came to the school early to pick up her first grader and kindergartner. But little did she know, just moments later, a 6-year-old would gun down a teacher.
Myself and...
Heck no. So he let off multiple shots. It wasn't even one and done. He said, I'm going to keep pulling the trigger. Hopefully they detail what provoked the young man. And I think it's a little boy, right?
The receptionist stayed pretty much mostly to her side because we know the administrators had to do what they needed to do to make sure all of the children were safe.
Did you help give Abby CPR?
I didn't do CPR, but yes, I did help put pressure on her wounds. Yes, I was there.
This all happening in the school office before first responders were able to get to Zwerner.
I didn't know what to do. I'm not a med. I didn't know what to do, but I just instinct.
Worrying not only for Zwerner, but for her 2 boys' safety.
He was in the classroom beside her, beside the classroom where the gunshot was, and he heard the gunshot. They heard the gunshot.
Some kids were crying.
Did Friday's shooting lead you to today's Stop the Violence rally?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Concerned residents, community activists, and city leaders voiced concerns at the 2nd annual Stop.
It's crazy, though, to think these kids went through something so traumatic. But if you look at little homie right here.
They heard the gunshot.
Buddy right back to playing. Little bro right back to playing on his iPad, giggling. You know what I'm saying? Some kids be tormented or just emotionally and long-lastingly scarred by situations that happen. Some kids, when they go through things, they don't really process the situation or can even really fathom.
Friday's shooting leads you to today.
Buddy laughing and giggling. I mean, kids gonna be kids, but it's crazy to think that they heard gunshots, literally somewhat witnessed a traumatic event. You know what I mean? But didn't seem like it fazed them too much.
They Stop the Violence rally.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Concerned residents, community activists, and city leaders voiced concerns at the 2nd annual Stop the Violence rally as the school shooting pains the community. Chief Drew even showing support to the youngest in our community.
We are trying to focus this on a mental issue more than just the violence part of it.
Leaving Russ to enhance her mental health conversations with her boys.
They don't realize the height of the situation. However, I'm still talking to them about what happened on Friday. And I will continue to talk to them until they really get a full understanding of the magnitude of how things went.
Want a lawn that looks like this, but your lawn looks a little bit more like this? Then you should click right here and check out True Green.
How a 6-year-old can obtain a weapon, a firearm, let alone have the wherewithal to use it.
Joy McManus is a mother and teacher who is still wrapping her head around this
she got a
tragic
point
situation.
Though. It must have been left over from the parents. Maybe a firearm was left out. I don't know how a 6-year-old getting scraps like that. How is he getting guns, firearms like that? But when you look at inner city communities, I mean, finding a gun on the street is nothing. You know what I'm saying? A lot of kids have illegal firearms. But 6 years old, though? I don't really know about that young.
This one in particular just feels so close to home and feels so hard to understand that we're now getting to the fact that our youngest of our students are involved with gun violence.
Friday, the unimaginable happened at Rich Neck Elementary School, where, according to police, a 6-year-old student shot Abby Zwerner, a teacher at the school. The student is in custody, and earlier this afternoon, we learned from police that Zwerner is now in stable condition as she struggles to survive her life-threatening injuries. This situation is now prompting mental health experts to weigh in on the psychological impacts the shooting may have on students and staff.
School-age children, especially so young, they process trauma differently than adults. They are grieving
like I was
in a
saying.
sense because the normalcy of their experiences has now changed.
Is a 6-year-old even able to comprehend the severity of
She said April?
This has now changed.
Is a 6-year-old even able to comprehend the severity of this shooting?
I would say, and this is without meeting the child, I would have a very hard time as a professional thinking and that this child could truly process the gravity of their actions.
Yet Williams
they
says
talking about
the
actual culprit. If a 6-year-old understood the seriousness of his actions, you know, when he decided to pull the trigger. I don't know. I never really thought about it like that.
Involving a 6-year-old is a case like no other, leading her to recommend parents to encourage their children to share their feelings.
It wouldn't surprise me that it would take months or years for the impact of this trauma to truly settle in for those individuals.
She also says parents should have a conversation at home about gun violence to help them process what they experienced.
Yes, because we make assumptions that our children are innocent and they don't know. And if we have conversations, we will be surprised at what they pick up.
Right.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. This past weekend has been a dark day for our city. It's a very raw experience, but I'm extremely proud of all my first responders, the teachers, the staff, the community coming together. We are going to pull together. Honestly, it's a very difficult thing to process. The fact that we have a 6-year-old individual with the ability to bring a gun into school and harm his teacher, something that we're still grappling with. It is still an active investigation. But as always, our main priority.
At that point, it make you think, what does the child deal with at home? You know what I mean? Like, what environment is he living in, growing up in? Does he have both parents in the household? I mean, partially this video did say the father was going to speak, so.
Is to ensure the safety
of our
children in schools. So right now, it still remains an active investigation. So at this time, we're going to let the police conduct a thorough and formal investigation before we comment on that matter. So, and actually, in accordance with Virginia law, and after talking to the victim and her family, we're actually not going to announce her name at this time. But I can tell you that myself and other colleagues of City Council, as well as the police chief, we spent the last couple of days at the hospital. I've spoken to the family almost every single day, and I'm very glad to report that she's in a stable condition at this time. Yeah. I think right now there's a lot of questions that we have to answer as a community. One, how a 6-year-old was able to have a gun, to know how to use it in such a deliberate manner.
That's what I'm saying. I can't even fathom a 6-year-old pulling a trigger. Like, does he even have enough arm strength to do such a thing? Or even like finger strength, you know what I'm saying? It just seems like I can't even fathom a kid that young.
I do know.
Holding a gun upright to let off multiple rounds. It just don't even really process like that. Because when you 6, you in like what? First grade or something like that? You in first grade. I think so.
That right now, because it remains an investigation, we're going to let it itself sort of work out before we rush to judgment at this time. But I can tell you that the individuals responsible will be held accountable. I can promise that. I think right now there are going to have to be some discussions. After the investigation is concluded, I do know that myself, members of council, school board, along with the superintendent, are going to review our current security protocols and policies, a combination of SROs, police officers in the school, as possible metal detectors. There's a lot of things that we can look at when we review our policy, but first we want to take and ensure that the police have time for a formal and thorough investigation. So it's actually already happening. So myself and members of council, we do not formally swear in until Tuesday. This is essentially week 0 for us. We're going to swear in on Tuesday, and there's going to be a lot of discussion concurrent to the police investigation. But I do want to give my chief of police time to do an investigation before we start to piecemeal do security. Newport News Public Schools has about 26,000 students, just under 40 schools. I want to make sure that we do things correctly in a refined manner, because it is going to affect a lot of children.
I've been getting paid $1,000 a month, if not more, just from this app on my phone.
Well, first, before I start off, I just want to say prayers and healing to Miss Abby and the child, Rich Neck Elementary School, the city, and our community. The second thing is, I wasn't alerted about what happened at the school. Half of the parents was not alerted about what happened in the school. We found out on the news. My wife called me and told me that there's a shooter, an active shooter at the school. And when we found out there was an active shooter, I got up. There was police helicopters everywhere outside. Traffic was jammed up. So the mission to get to the school somewhat was impossible until we got there. Then it was a 2-mile radius cordon off of parked cars and people running, trying to actually get to the scene. Once we got to the scene at Hope Church, that's where the cops met us, and they were trying to defuse the situation, because that's when we
come to the conclusion this isn't the father of the shooter. I think they clickbaited in the title. Just father in general speaks, right? This is a father whose son attended the school. He hadn't caught wind of the active shooter, but when he did, he tried to rush to the scene, right? Kind of puts you in the mindset of a parent. You know what I mean? Obviously, you catch note that your child, there's an active school shooter at the school your child attends. Immediately, you try to rush to the school, make sure everything okay, try to pick up your kid. Not to realize that obviously you thinking like every other parent. So that's where he's pretty much detailing a traffic jam, right? Obviously, they got a radius around the school. So it's just an influx at one time once the information is received. Obviously, you're trying to do what you can to get to your child.
In the audience, the crowd, and the cops were telling us that there was a shooter that was a child and a teacher that was shot. That's how we found out. And the worst part about this is that the school usually sends out a text message, as well as the city. I have 3 text messages from the cities. They have a code for every city that sends out the messages. There was one that was sent out. It was sent out on, go ahead, I'm listening. On the 1st, the 7th, and the 8th. The incident, it happens because this is how I feel. And as a prior military veteran, I kind of understand this because I had to do this with my soldiers. It's called grouping. And when we miss the group and we miss the target, we missed what we supposed to do. Number 1, the call to the parents. We missed that grouping. So half of these parents are confused, and when we get there, we're already riled up because we don't understand. Number 2, the security measures. They said that they don't have metal detectors in the front of the school. I walk my son to school and pick him up every single day. There's only one person outside, but they also have road guards and stuff like that to get the kids into school. There are no metal detectors into that school. There's only one metal detector, and that's inside of the library. We don't have
facts. Why is there always that metal detector inside the library though? Because even in high school, there's like detectors in the library doors, the entrance and the exit. But it's like, why? Maybe it's I don't know if it's a metal detector, but it could be some type of detection. Some type of detection that like tracks the tags on the book, knowing if somebody tries to steal a book. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. There's no reason why you need to have metal detectors going into the library, but you don't choose to have them at the entrance of the building.
Precise guideline of clear backpacks that could possibly have helped this, as well as security with wands to get each child through properly. In an article yesterday, it was released, and they said that they have security measures inside of the facility, and kids are looked at every day in their backpack sporadically. My child's backpack is looked at every single morning by his teacher in his folder, Miss MacArthur, in the 2nd grade. Every single morning. How did we miss this? And again, prior raised concerns. We as parents raised these concerns before. We've talked to the principal. We talked to the guidance counselor. We went to town hall meetings. We spoke on Zooms. What else are we supposed to do? Yes, can you give me 1 second before we even say that? I'm not blaming the school. I'm blaming the city for not implementing the measures to help these schools after 3 years of school shootings. Go ahead.
So when it happened, the teacher heard it from the 1st grade, and we all went to the room. And then when we got there, we all stayed quiet. 2 people were crying. I will help them. And when the cops came, we were marching to the gym, and we were all safe. And they were programming it was safe enough.
He just said that he was scared, and he's glad that we got there on time.
Dang, man. Kids, you know, they can't even really articulate themselves, and that's why a lot of parents really try to, shield their children from, the harsh reality of the world. Feel me? Like, there's just so many crazy things going on. It's like, you really want to shield your child from it. You don't want them to be exposed to things that are just going to scar them emotionally, mentally, whatever it may be. But living in the world we live in, you really ain't got a choice. One way or another, your child will really be exposed to things. Like, that's the thing. All this parent security and child lock protection and all this, take those preventative measures in order to really protect your children. But just realize they're going to get exposed to something one way or another. And that's why you hear a lot of these folks, not to say that I don't want kids, but a lot of these folks, I don't want kids. Why would I want to bring a child into this world? Which is a very valid point. But at the end of the day, that's like living in fear. That's like saying, I'm not going to take a test because I'm scared I'm going to fail it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't really operate like that. Because children are definitely a blessing, having your legacy continue. But, once my kid get here, God willing, I'm not going to be that kind of parent who's just overly protecting their children, because at some point you got to let the bird fly. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I wholeheartedly believe, that do what you can till they get to a point to where they're self-sufficient. But you can't hide your child from the world. But that comes with the understanding that with your child being exposed to the world like that, things just become accessible.
And it was just a scary situation. These children were shaken up. Parents was even more shaken up. But like I said, Rich Neck Elementary School is not to blame here. Their safety measures are implemented. They got these kids in a safe zone. I'm very glad that that's what happened. And I just want the city to speak up and try to get more implements so this doesn't happen again.
Any that can see and respond for a subject with a gun at Rich Neck Elementary School acknowledged.
Tonight in Newport News, Virginia, a 6-year-old under arrest, a teacher critically wounded, and parents terrified.
When I hear active shooter, I think my baby. It's the first thing, is my baby is right there. And then you hear it is a baby that did this. And just all I can think is how and why.
Isabella Moore was one of the parents who scrambled to the school to make sure her kindergartner was okay.
It is terrifying, and you just have hysterical parents everywhere that don't know what to do. And until you get your kid, you're not believing that they're okay.
After police allege the boy intentionally fired a handgun in class, shooting his first-grade teacher following an altercation. The teacher, identified by her alma mater as Abby Zwerner.
She was struck in the upper shoulder, and there was an injury to her hand as a result of that bullet as well, hitting her hand as well as the upper torso area of her body.
And how is she doing now?
Oh, so it was one shot.
We're hearing reports she's in stable condition after coming out of surgery.
Police aren't naming the boy, who is now in custody. The investigation is ongoing. Do you know how the 6-year-old got a gun on campus?
Like many schools today, we do not march elementary students through metal detectors every day when they walk into a schoolhouse. And that's something that we have to weigh.
Do you feel safe?
Did he just say that's something that we have to weigh? Bruh, that's the problem. When so many situations happen in the world, it's like being slapped in the face. You know what I'm saying? Or the fool me once, fool me twice type of scenario, or saying there's so many countless scenarios. Put the proper precautions in place so that you don't ever run into the situation. But people be like, oh, well, there's no reason to do this because we haven't, like, bro, what he just said.
Do not march elementary students through metal detectors every day when they walk into a schoolhouse. And that's something that we have to weigh.
That's something that we have to weigh. Like, there was no sense of urgency in the way he just said that. That's something that we have to weigh. I would immediately say that's something that we now have to enforce. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much chaos in the world, so many things that are so accessible to these kids. Make sure you have the proper precautions in place. Now, this is something we have to think about and weigh out. This is the problem. People be thinking about stuff way too late, then shit happen. Oh, well, we should have thought about that. I'll be so tired, bro. I'll be tired of hearing stories like this, especially when, let's say, not to say this is the ideal situation, but you could have done something. If I hear there should be some type of mandate across the country now. Metal detectors in every school, entrance, exits, all type of stuff, bro. I don't know. That's what we got to do now. Just like when 9/11 happened, what were the precautions the airport started to take? Security, metal detector, all type of things that were a little bit overboard. You know, you always shoot over the mark to ensure that you don't just hit the mark. And if anything happens and we hit the mark, we already shot over it. You know what I'm saying? You already put the proper precautions into place. But this is something that we have to think about and weigh out. You sound dumb, bro. Honestly. And I may sound a little bit overbearing to say something like that, but when you have these stories continuously come out and you could have put your foot down, you could have done something. I'm not sure how these, people that govern these certain cities or whatever it is, man, or I'm talking about people that govern these certain states, what type of things they're able to kind of reinforce or put into play, or how quickly the turnaround is. But immediately I'm trying to pass some type of mandate. I don't know who it's got to go to. You know what I'm saying? I'm passing some type of mandate to ensure that there's additional protection and security at schools. Simple. It's not rocket science, man. Let me know y'all's thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit notification bell. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, FortWorthFabian. It's road to 1 million, man. Peace, love. We out.